And when we start talking about DMT, it's a very, very emotional subject for me. I want to give it its pure justice. Like thinking about it today, how do we talk about DMT? Because I've gone through an evolution of what DMT actually did for me compared to where I was before. But it completely changed my life, our life. It opened our awareness. But if I ask myself what DMT did for me, it led me to let go as well as see beyond. How do we start to talk about DMT, Robert?
For me, DMT is a way to see yourself, right? And once you see yourself, you can then understand yourself, which is understanding the whole, because we're all a part of the whole. And you see yourself in a way that you don't know it yourself. So when you see yourself, you're not really knowing you're talking to yourself until you come out of it, more or less, for the most part, for me anyway.
I like that. No, I will say.
You had a really good way of doing it without so many riddles, though. Like last time you were talking about DMT for your awakening experience, you had mentioned that it allowed yourself to start questioning reality.
Absolutely.
I believe that it goes right into what he just said too, though. It had you able to see yourself.
So there was one DMT trip that I had, and I remember it being, I was in more or less an igloo, and I remember seeing myself in this igloo, but being outside of the igloo all at the same time.
The observer.
So I was both inside the box and outside the box. So think of the Tesseract.
Okay.
I was the Tesseract. I was both inside and outside at the same time.
Yeah, like somebody would call it an out-of-body experience.
Absolutely, but it was all inside. I was not.
But you're putting a geometric configuration of it.
Right.
It was all under while I was.
You're witnessing the observer through your mind. You're witnessing the observer through your mind. Yeah, we've gone through so many journeys on DMT. We've gone through so many journeys in our life through the act of DMT. I think it just opened my mind and let me see myself. I think Robert said it perfectly there. It let me see myself, which allowed me to pivot and correct myself on behaviors, which then allowed me to expand my knowledge, question.
Think outside the box.
Think outside the box.
You literally see yourself and you realize that you are a part of the whole. Right? And when you see that, you're allowed to then see outside the box and see that your actions matter to everyone, to everything, that you are literally a reflection of everything else.
Yes.
You get to see all that and understand. And you might not understand it at the exact moment it happens. It might take weeks, months, years later. Who knows? But some of these things I pieced together through, time.
I guess they're talking about it. DMT does a lot of things to oneself. And we're talking about allows us to see ourselves. It does that. It also, one of the most critical things is when you first experience DMT, what you're left with is a sensation that is almost uncomfortable. But when you stop and think about what this feeling is, it's love and bliss. And a lot of people that come out of doing DMT the first couple of times, they will say they feel tingles or weird. But then if you process, you say, is that bliss? And they'll go, yes. So it also allows us to see a magnitude of this thing called love that I believe that for myself, before DMT, I knew love as a word. And after DMT, I knew love as a thing, as a breathing, intelligent thing.
It lets you understand what unconditional love is. Like, you don't really know.
Which we took for granted.
Yeah, you don't really know. Like, you think mom and dad and all that. And
that's love. No, it's not really love.
Unconditional love is a totally different thing. It can bring you to your knees.
Yeah, unconditional love
can literally bring you to your knees.
And it shows us unconditional love. It doesn't make us accept unconditional love, because there's a lot of people that will experience the awesomeness of bliss from DMT, but will choose to live their life accordingly as they see so. But they will never be able to erase or forget the feeling that they probably felt at that one time. It takes another thing DMT did for me is learn to let go.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, is the biggest. I think that's the lesson of the lessons. Yes. Now, that's not what DMT does for everybody, but I do believe that that's the end game of what DMT does. It teaches us to let go, first to let go of our thoughts and ego, and then just to let go of us, I believe. The situation. And then we become with that encompasses what is death. Is there illusion of death? It makes us, what DMT, I believe, shows us is letting go. And when you let go, it will show us
That this is illusion.
the process after death. I believe when we break through on DMT, this immaculate thing that everybody shoots for when they try DMT, which is very hard to get to because you have to let go everything. A breakthrough is not easy to get to. DMT forces you to face your ego, to face your problems, and to absolve them. Because our material minds and our monkey brains think that these problems that we have to solve takes time to do. In this life, we feel like we have problems that we can't solve unless the right circumstances, the right money, the right people come in our lives for us to fix them. That's all an illusion. What DMT shows you is that every problem can be fixed right now with a pivot of thought. That's all it takes.
Time is now.
Time is now. There is no time to wait. And I think that's the biggest thing it taught me is I don't believe it a lot of times, but I do know the law. When it's unfamiliar, I lean in. Because it's taught me that now is the time. If I'm feeling the unfamiliarity, if I'm feeling the uncomfortability right now, lean in. And I live the law by. I end up doing things these days, that I'm not really certain for. I'm like, should I be doing this? Well, I'm leaning into this.
I think the same time we might be saying the exact same thing, but it's gut instinct. It tells you your gut instinct. And
that is the same thing.
And to go with it. And
yes.
Following
the gut is hard.
Absolutely.
Because we've always felt the gut in all of our life. We felt the gut and then thought about the gut. Leaning in and letting go is forgetting about this. Witnessing your mind. Becoming the observer of the mind. I think
the more you let go and the more that happens, the more you get what you want in life.
Right.
Things happen for you.
Right. And DMT shows us the power of letting go.
Absolutely.
And then we use the power of letting go in everyday life and reap the benefits of. Because I tell you for certain, leaning in and letting go in our natural physical lives is the thing we should be doing all the time. If we are avoiding, there's a reason we're avoiding, and it's usually something that doesn't really exist. It's usually not real.
Yeah. Our own thought.
It's our own thought process. Right. Lead us on.
No, I mean,
I don't even know what to say. It blows me away because what you guys are talking about is a form of maximum ownership or maximum accountability. The idea that you can look internally and recognize that everybody else,
everything is you.
It's this guy.
Yes, everything. Right.
Yeah, and that's some people go their whole lives without figuring this out.
We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders.
Right.
And by that means, we're going to break our backs because we're never going to be able to solve our inner issues if we're carrying it on our shoulders. It's all in here, and it all can change within a thought. DMT shows us DMT shows us everything about empathy. It shows us everything about compassion, and it shows us everything about the power of thought. I don't even remember. DMT has the most spectacular visuals, which I don't say that they're visuals. They're more of encompassing body envelopes. I mean, you're not seeing something. You're a part of something. This is the most amazing vortex of energies that you go through. But I don't account DMT's amazement through the visualizations. I account DMT's success is through how it makes us feel, how it pivoted my thoughts and take ownership in everything I've ever victimized myself on. I have grown immensely from the person I was. I'm still range, but I'm not the range I used to think I was. I take ownership in everything I have now. I lean into things I are wary of, and I never have regrets. And if something does go wrong, I'm not going to regret it because that's a form of victimization in itself. And so the power of what it did is you can't even explain it in words. It's
you can't explain it in words. I'll agree to that. It's inevitable. The word is inevitable. You don't have words to explain the magnitude of it. However, if I were to use words, empathy, it gives you empathy because it lets you see yourself and put yourself in other people's situations.
It connects you to everybody, right?
Because of that.
Okay.
It gives you awareness amongst things that you didn't even think of before.
You become the
Yeah,
observer.
you are able to see things. You're able to see the lines connect, the dots connect.
It literally, I would say, literally pulls you away from yourself.
Yeah, and you're able to see it.
You're able
The
to see
pattern,
it all.
the
See the
pattern's there, and it's there for you, and you never thought the pattern was there until you saw
The
it.
sensation of being in a DMT experience and witnessing your thoughts witnessing your thoughts without being a part of those thoughts is the most. It's sensational. It's like, if I could put it in words, I mean, you become two people on DMT. You mean you take DMT and it's boop, and now you're here and you're seeing your ego and you're talking with your ego, which we do all the time in here.
But you're having a different conversation. It's weird. It's
basically
a conversation, but it's not a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a mental conversation you're having with yourself, but you don't know the conversation really what you're having. It's just you get the answers somehow throughout time. Time allows you to figure out the decoded message in the DMT.
I believe, just like the behavioral patterns, once you recognize a behavioral pattern, they're going to dissolve, right? Once you recognize a behavioral pattern, they dissolve. So what DMT does is just pushes you into these patterns. And you can lean in and go through the DMT experience by leaning into these patterns, and they dissolve. I think that's the conversation you have. You're like, and they disappear, and they disappear. So when you stop in a DMT trip, if you hold on to these patterns, your DMT trip will stop right then. A DMT trip can go it will last around an average of 7 minutes. But if you resist a DMT trip, it will stop in 3 to 4 minutes because you're stopping the progressive pattern. You lean into a DMT trip, it gives you the world. If you halt and give any resistance, it stops. And it doesn't
bring you back.
Bring you back. And what I mean back is you just open your eyes and you're like, okay. The thing about DMT, let's talk about other substances. You talk about alcohol, you talk about marijuana, you talk about caffeine, sugar, and you talk about speed, meth, etc. These are things that we're poisoning our body with, right, that our body reacts. DMT is not that. Okay. DMT is already in your body. Right. So when you're in a DMT experience, you're thinking as clearly as you're thinking now. Absolutely. It doesn't.
You are wide awake to the world.
It doesn't violate your cognitive functions at one bit, not 1%. The DMT it's not affecting you. It's not drugging you. Your body's not acting from opposition of this chemical that's foreign to your body. DMT is already
choosing to engage with the spiritual or not.
DMT is part of your body. We are just saturating your body with more of DMT than its regular expulsion. And when we do DMT, it's widening our antenna of frequency. So our antenna channel 3, it's widening it from 1 to 6. So we are now in the DMT experience with our antenna opened, which as long as we lean into the DMT experience, it will widen and widen. Now, as soon as we put a halt or start thinking about the experience in any way, we collapse the experience. So think of DMT as a waveform.
Think of us shutting the door on your face.
When we think of DMT as a waveform, we're widening the waveform, and when we start thinking about, and our ego sets in, we are collapsing that waveform, and the DMT trip stops right then. And then,
interesting.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon.
So, from a Christian perspective, like, I'm just going to put this out there. So, very much when you're saved, right? You come to the prayer, you basically realize that you're a sinner, you need salvation, right? And you're putting all your faith in Jesus, right? The Holy Spirit comes to dwell within you once you've made this decision for Christ, right? It's a very sublime proposition. You don't have to do much to obtain salvation, just have to believe in it, right? But from that perspective, though, that voice, the Holy Spirit, that internal dialogue, right? It's a point of euphoria or bliss, right, when this occurs. But that internal dialogue that you guys talk about, ever present, and you know when somebody is lights on, nobody home, there's no internal dialogue going on when you talk with them. You know that they're almost a reactionary. Well, they haven't awoken.
Yeah,
they haven't been saved. They haven't had what we consider the Holy Spirit to come dwell in them. And so, how would you guys take what I just said? I know you're spinning and thinking on it right now. I see the lights.
We're agreeing with you all the way, I think. I would say that inner spirit that talks to us is our higher self. Right? Yep. So it's our self without our thought brain, our thinking brain, our egos. It's our self without the ego. So our ego traps us in this body. Our higher self is talking to us, which seems like this, but it's like this. This higher self is an extension of Jesus.
Right.
So if you want to say
us in his own image.
Yeah, if you want. So yeah, exactly.
So our higher self is the Holy Spirit.
Our higher self is the Holy Spirit, which people will encapsulate as Jesus, because that's how Jesus talks to us is through the Holy Spirit. Right. Our higher self is an attachment of the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
DMT showed me the teachings of Jesus. DMT showed me that Jesus is full of love. Why? Because what I'm getting from up here, when I widen my antenna through the experience, that's all it is. I am this now. I am brought up and I am part of Jesus. I am a part of this. Now, that may make you want to cringe, or people may say I'm a part of Jesus, or that's what we're looking for.
No, I'm not.
So
it doesn't, I don't get cringe.
It made me have a relationship with love, with compassion, with Jesus and the infinite creator, which you call God. I have a relationship with them there that I have forgotten down here.
I'll break it down. There are layers through DMT, levels, whatever you want to call it, and you kind of graduate because it's a work in progress. DMT does not give you the door right away.
DMT is a work on yourself.
Yes, it is a work in progress. DMT is very fast, and when I say fast, it's like a roller coaster. It comes on quick, and it goes.
Well, once again, it's not a drug. There is no drinking it, smoking it, or snorting it and waiting 5 minutes and nothing. Once you ingest DMT, your antenna wires are widened, and it kicks you harder than you've ever been kicked because
it's fast. It comes on fast, and what you're seeing comes on fast. Like it's like going in a. And
it's really interesting. What you're seeing when you take the first hit of DMT and you're getting it, what you're seeing is quite literally the frequencies and vibrations of everything that you know to exist faltering, falling.
The particles collapse.
Well, because the antenna is widening. So the collapsed particles are no more collapsed. They're becoming waveforms. You're seeing the waveforms in immediate sense. So you take that first hit,
you feel it.
You're seeing, and you feel a buzz. You feel a buzz, you hear a buzz, you see a buzz, and it's all, that's what it feels like your eyes are doing this, but it's not. It's everything else.
We'll break it down. The first thing is you do 3 hits. The first hit is usually the hit that gets your body used to it. It goes boom, and you feel it right away. You feel everything enter your body. And the second hit is usually the one that kind of gets the vibration going, would you say? It kind of gets you to the vibration that you're set to go. And then the third hit is usually the one that hopefully gets you the time to get to the levels that you want to go to.
And after the 3 hits, you lay back, and there's no doing DMT, you look like a corpse.
Yeah.
You lay back and you look like a corpse because you're not in your head anymore. Once you can do DMT and close your eyes or keep your eyes open. Now, what happens when you keep your eyes open, we'll start with, is you're seeing everything decollapse. You're starting to see everything as a waveform. Mm-hmm. And what happens is when this stuff breaks down from a collapsed particle to infinite waveforms, you start seeing that everything is moving, everything is alive. Everything is in a constant state of negate and growing, just like the books tell us.
Like a glittering matrix.
Yes.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It comes in like
exactly. You start seeing the O's and ones. You start seeing the O's and ones and everything. Right. You close your eyes, so you can do your eyes open. DMT experience, and it's really, really wild. That's a experience in itself because you can see the world of what it really is. And you can learn a couple things out of eyes open, but the real honor of DMT is the lessons you learn when you do it eyes closed. Because when you do it eyes closed, you're now not encompassed with this projected world. You're only within your own mind. And therefore, DMT lifts you off into this world of, they call it hyperspace, which was the thing you referenced earlier. It's great. Puts you in a hyperspace tunnel of magnificence, which is basically feels like you're on a spaceship going speed light through the stars. And during this time, you see geometrics and even entities that will talk to you. And what are these entities? I believe your ego. I believe it's different spawns of your ego. It may be, because remember, it's all in your mind. So it's what are these entities?
Excuse me.
It's all right.
DMT goes in the fourth dimension. Takes you to the fourth dimension.
So therefore, if we experience space-time here, when we take DMT, we're experiencing time-space.
Yes.
And our mind is still there until you let go and break through to the fifth dimension, which would be love.
Yes.
Interesting.
Okay.
Or higher.
Yeah.
Or so a dimension higher than fifth.
And that goes into the chakras. Where we learned about the chakras is what the DMT does. It breaks through your fourth chakra, which is your heart chakra, the chakra that awakens people. I believe your heart chakra is pretty much open. Probably not all the way, but it's open enough to be the way who you are. Right. What DMT does is it breaks your heart chakra open, and you feel it. When you break through on DMT, it feels like you're home as a kid. Christmas Day,
you're
home baked cookies,
in your mom's
womb.
You're just
you're in mom's
mom, and it's love. It's love like you never thought you knew.
Usually,
love.
People when they break through on DMT will come out saying, "What the fuck?" Crying like
I bawled my eyes out.
Crying like they have said hello to mom as a child, holding each other again.
Wow.
That's what the DMT breakthrough is, because it brings you back home to the whole self.
Grandma that you haven't seen since she's died 25 years ago, and you're back in her arms.
Yeah.
You know?
So this episode, DMT, 5D Jesus, Folgers Crystals, Mom Hug.
Yeah.
That's the title.
Yeah. All of it.
Anything and everything. Here's a sprinkle.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, of course. But I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
So, well,
Yes.
hold on. I want to add to the experience on eyes closed. Again, it goes through levels. The level, it's very fast. So the level 1, I would call it your nursery, because you're very familiar with it. You know, it's like you've been there a million times, and you know it, and it's your mind because you made it yourself. So literally, you've been there a million times because you made it yourself.
So we need to clean up
So what it does for me is it makes you comfortable. It takes the anxiety, because you get a lot of anxiety because it moves fast and it goes quick. And so what it does is it takes that anxiety and makes it less anxiety, makes you comfortable. Because, hey, look at all these fun things that you love, and you remember this place, right? You remember being here. This place is awesome. Look at all these cool things and toys and things and all this here. It's like being in the Muppet Babies.
I get it. But you like you.
Huh?
You like you.
I love me.
Yeah.
He loves him so much he can't break through. No, I mean, if you want to get to it and to wrap it up, level 1 gets you comfortable with the feelings of appreciation, gratitude, all the things that our ego wants. Level 1 feeds our ego. It really does. Level 2 starts breaking away our ego. You start having conversations with your ego. I don't know what you call level 2 is, but I mean, it's you think of it as levels. I think of it as just a process of degrees of letting go, and it's the further you
Walking up the stairs.
or falling down.
Yeah. 6 of wine.
Whichever way you want
You're gonna hear it different. This is our DMT experiences have always been separate and different, because I can let go crazy good. Like I could just let go. I've broken through so many times with DMT. It's incredible.
I try every time.
That's the whole point, and that's why I try. It's the trying that's getting you. Whenever you try, you're not. There is try. There's no. It's Yoda.
The guy chomping on the toothpick can't let go.
Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah. Any questions about this?
Yeah, of course, but we can cut it.
Okay, cut it.
Yeah.
Stop that. I have to pee. Get a beer. That was good.